on Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over the world. Now, as life, happens, things happens, and no one can really predict the future. And I did some promo work, and I did promise that we're going to have the original Godfather himself, but unfortunately, he has other pressing issues to deal with rather than coming on a small channel like Canon 4 TV. But we've got an equal replacement in the face of Richard from Arsenal TV. Richard, how are you?
Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm absolutely buzzing for a North London derby. I cannot wait.
Likewise, I've lost a lot of hair between the last match, Liverpool one. Got no hair left. And we've got the irrepressible James Rowe back at Canon 4 TV as well. Good evening, James. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Alex. Thanks for having me back on, and nice to time it in with the Europa League draw too.
Perfect. See, all the stars were aligning for you to be here on a Friday evening.
Indeed.
Right.
Indeed.
So we
Thanks
wanted to talk about the Europa League Cup draw. I'm sure most of you have probably seen the draw, which was very long and drawn out. And poor Ashley Cole, I felt sorry for him because he had quite a few names that he wasn't accustomed to the pronunciation. And I know what it feels like because I remember a few years ago when I was in Central America, I had to do a presentation in Spanish, and it was a graduation, and I had like a co-host, and there was so many names, and I kind of tripped up so many times. So I do feel sorry for Ashley Cole. So anyway, there it is. There's the apologies. But James, the Europa League Cup draw. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are it's going to be more difficult than people anticipate, judging by the comments on some of my feed today from Arsenal fans. This is our third crack of the whip in the Europa League, and we're in arguably the toughest group we've ever been in my opinion. In the two previous editions, having the likes of Wolfsburg, Poltava, Sporting Lisbon and Karabakh, and then the time before that with Red Star, Cologne and Bati Borisov. Now we're in arguably the toughest group we've faced in that respect. The away games are going to be very important. We've got to take this seriously. We really have. As I've said before, all our domestic competitors have all won European trophies in recent years. We haven't. So where has that left us? I can understand the clamour for Champions League. I can understand the clamour for top four. But what about winning a European trophy for the first time in more than a quarter of a century? As we've spoken on the pod before, Alex, we know how special Copenhagen 94 was. Richard hasn't seen any of that yet. Richard hasn't seen what it's like to see Arsenal win a European trophy. And I can tell you now, Richard, I've been a Gooner for 30 years. And if you ask me my top three memories of all the 30 years, winning that European trophy in 94 is right up there. And that just goes to show how special it was. And we've got to take this group very seriously. If you look at the fixtures, we are away to Frankfurt first. And then we finish away in Liège. And then, so it's a real mix in terms of when we start and when we finish. But we've got to take it seriously. We really have.
So, do you think there's a case for Unai Emery to not play the youngsters throughout the Europa League Cup matches, or do you think you should do a mixture of experience and
I think it should be a mixture, Alex. I really do. We've got to send out a statement. We've got to really go full pelt. I mean, we're going to be playing an Eintracht Frankfurt side who, in a group last year with Lazio and Marseille, absolutely blitzed it, and they got all the way to the semi-finals, almost reaching the final. Again with Standard Liège, one of the biggest clubs in Belgium. They've won the Belgian title 10 times. And I know people talk about it just being Anderlecht and Club Brugge, for example. But, they're still one of the biggest clubs in the country. And then Victoria Guimarães, who have a bit of a renaissance, really. They came through the qualifiers where they dispatched of Steaua Bucharest. And it's a real interesting mix. And we cannot underestimate anyone. As I said on this pod before, we have lost in this competition. In the last 2 seasons, we've lost to Bati Borisov, we've lost to Rennes, we've lost to Cologne, we've lost Okay, Atletico Madrid are seen as a Champions League team, but still it's another loss. And we've got to really pull out all the stops to try to win this competition this year. I think it's something we should put on the list of high priorities.
Richard, I saw briefly your thoughts on the draw, and you said that you did allude to the fact that you're more worried about us playing away from home than at home. Can you tell me, what are your thoughts about the draw first and foremost?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, I look at it and I think of it as to me now it doesn't feel like a Europa League. It now feels like a Champions League because of the countries that we're going to, like Portugal, Belgium, and Germany. Now, for me, like as James said, he knocked it nails right on there. Where we've lost against Cologne, we've lost against Rennes as well away from home last season. So this is what we need to rectify: is our away form in these sort of competitions. This is where Arsenal have struggled a lot. Is our away form. And this is why I'm worried about playing against Frankfurt away from home, because they have a very, very, very good home record. And, and Frankfurt ain't no pushovers. They ain't, because you look at the way they had when they played against Chelsea in the semi-finals of the last season of the Europa League. Now, all the Chelsea fans were saying, like, we're going to beat them. But I wasn't expecting for Frankfurt to take them all the way to penalties. If you look at the first leg between Frankfurt and Chelsea, Frankfurt won the game 2-1. So it proves that they are capable of beating sides like us and for anyone that they put in front of them, because they're not afraid of the opposition. And this is where Unai Emery has to take this competition seriously, especially the away games. It's about game management. And I think at some points of playing the ball out from the back is not the way to go. We need to mix it. We need to play balls over the top, because teams like Frankfurt, they will press you. So, but yeah, it's the away form that I'm more concerned about. I'm not really that concerned about playing them at home because it's our own turf, and their away form isn't that great either. So maybe we could have the upper hand at home, but it's just the away form that I'm more worried about and concerned about.
And I remember last season when we spoke to James, and James said that we have to take the opportunity now, because each and every year the Europa League, it appears like the teams become stronger and stronger and stronger. So I made a small list of outsiders, you could say: Sevilla, Wolves, Manchester United, Celtic, Feyenoord, Porto, Roma, Lazio. The group of teams now dropping down into Europa League are a lot stronger and a lot bigger now. And I just worry, like I said to you, James, I last year, the final last year, for me was our best chance in more than a generation to get some Europa silverware, and we just blew it. And I just worry that I think we might come up short this season, James.
Yeah, I think we have to take it one game at a time. We have to learn from our mistakes. As you rightly say, the team's getting stronger every year, but it's also due to the fact it's now a world game where you have good players playing all over Europe who are coached better, who are taught about game management. And the biggest change, apart from the commercialism in football in the last 20 years, is also the gap between the seasoned European teams and the smaller European teams is decreases year upon year upon year. So we've got to, as Richard makes a great point about the away form, and it's a real test to go to Frankfurt on the opening round of fixtures and hopefully get a result. And then that will set the tone, really. One thing I'm worried about is the clamour for top four, and for everyone to see and say, it doesn't matter about the Europa League so long as we get top four. If we struggle at Europa League level, then you better buckle up for Champions League level, because that's twice as hard in some cases. And also, we would have been out of the Champions League for 3 seasons in a row, and it's not just a simple case of clicking your fingers and everything clicks back into gear. You only have to look at the Champions League draws, for example, and teams like Atalanta and Galatasaray and teams coming in who are playing in the Champions League. there's going to be a few surprises. There's always it's tournament football. There's always going to be a few surprises, but we've got a huge monkey on our back now of more than a quarter of a century without a European trophy, and I want us to get that off our back. You know, in 50 years' time, the history books are not going to say, Arsenal gave their all and got top 4 after 3 years of the Europa League. The history books are going to say Arsenal haven't won a European trophy for what will be 26 years if we don't win it this year. So it's a tremendous opportunity, and I just hope that we take it very, very seriously.
Yeah. Richard, do you have any thoughts on, you know, which teams? I mean, I was really blown away by the way that Wolves outplayed and outfought Torino. I thought, you know, the manager there has done an absolutely fantastic job there. And I think their style of play is probably ideal for the Europa League. I mean, I know they haven't had any European action for 39 years, but the style of play there, you know, I'm really liking. And I'm a little bit fearful that coming in the Premiership, I think their style is probably going to maybe push them quite close to being the top 4. Very, very close. But the question is, Richard, you know, do you have any other teams that you think might, you know, probably make the? I know it's just a start, but do you think what teams do you think might make it into the quarterfinals and maybe the semi-finals and eventually into the final, apart from Arsenal?
The team that I would probably say that might get into that stage would be Sevilla. I think Sevilla could definitely get into that point because they've got a decent side, a strong enough side. It was quite unfortunate for them not to get Champions League this season, so I think they was good enough to get it. But for them to come into the Europa League, they could go straight to semis, I reckon. I would like to see St. Etienne do well. I think they'll be quite surprising as well. But yeah, I think it's mainly going to be Sevilla that's definitely going to push it to the semis. I reckon maybe Wolves could potentially get to the last 16. And then, see, I'm not sure about Man United because they've got quite a tough group as well. And the Man United fans were moaning at us saying how hard it is for us. But, you know, they're now in the same boat as us. So, yeah, I reckon Seville is going to be one team to look out for, and I reckon Frankfurt.
Yeah. James, Lazio, they are in group. Which group are they in?
Group E with Rennes, Cluj, and Celtic.
Oh, right. Okay. So, which do you think is a group of death?
Oh, that's a really good question. That's a really good question. If you ask me what the group of death is, I think it's Group G. Porto, Feyenoord, Young Boys, and Rangers.
Oh wow, yeah.
Because if you look at the away days in those, going to Porto, going to Ibrox, going to the Kalp in Rotterdam, who is well known that has the best atmosphere of any ground in this country. And although Feyenoord are not at their best, being at home will give them an opportunity. If I could just elaborate on the question that you asked, Richard, I think Borussia Mönchengladbach are going to go quite close this year. You know, this is a huge club in Germany who are managed by Marco Rose, who had, I think it was Salzburg, playing some tremendous football at times, and that was also in Europe. And yeah, I think there's always a surprise. You only have to go back into the recent history books to see when Ajax reached the final in 2017, Marseille reached the final in 2018, Arsenal reached the final in 2019, and that was somewhat unexpected, and so on and so on. There's always a surprise in this competition, and this year will be no different. One thing I just hope that the ignorance does not rear its ugly head. The ignorance of not wanting to play in a Europa League, the ignorance of wanting to prioritise Premier League, the ignorance of clamouring for Champions League. You know, I want the Champions League to come back to the Emirates, but I was also a fan when we played in the Champions League for nigh on 20 years. And although we were under a regime that stagnated, the fans also did not help themselves by treating the Champions League as a novelty. Treating it as something that just happens. There was never really any excitement for Champions League matches. I mean, I remember when we first moved to Highbury from Wembley, and there used to be, but that was because we was, it was still quite new. And then you have it for years on end, and always knocked out of the last 16. And also the same monotonous fixtures all the time, playing Bayern Munich yet again, and those kind of things. And I just want us to get this monkey off our back and go into the Champions League as winners. We are not just this season. I know I can understand the clamour for top 4. I really can, but surely it's about European glory as well. It's got to be about that. In 2006 we came very close to winning the Champions League. 2019 we lost the Europa League final. We've got to get over the line. Yeah. Because yes, it's nice to have the financial money and paying all the wages and all that, but what about the European history? Liverpool have got it, Chelsea have got it, Man United have got it. It's about time we get it too.
Yeah. I just find that we're repeating the same thing, with the mentality and just taking things very, very serious. I like you, I think we did take it like day follows night with the Champions League, and then lo and behold, we've been out for the best part of 3 years, and it just goes to show how things can deteriorate, over a length of time. But I want us to do a sustained challenge in the Europa League, and again win some European software for the first time again in more than a generation. 25, 26 years.
Yeah, you think what life was like back then?
Sorry,
you think what life was like back then, and as you say, with the fan base back then. I mean, I know times change, I know generations change, but we are lucky to have experienced something the younger generation has. And we are still holding on to those memories because they were so special. And it's now an opportunity for the next generation to experience that. And fingers crossed it will be this year.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
See, Al, for me, do you know what? When I now look back on the Europa League final in Baku, for me, it didn't feel like a final at all. When I was watching it, it did not feel like a final. It felt like a pre-season. Do you know what I mean? I mean, if you've looked at other finals in the past, it's felt like a final. But for me, like when I was watching the Champions League final with Arsenal and Barcelona in 2006, that felt like a final because we had the Invincibles at that time, and for us to win that Champions League, that would have been the icing on the cake to say, do you know what? That's been a fantastic season and a great team to top it off. But the Europa League final for me just did not feel like a European final. It just felt like pre-season. And it was the way we turned up to that final. It was like as if we didn't want it. It was more or less that Chelsea were the team that was fighting to get into Champions League and not us. For Arsenal, I feel like for me, it's like a never-ending cycle. You get to a final and then it feels like you just want to throw it away as soon as you get there.
But Richard, do you remember we spoke about the final, and I remember you saying clearly that Chelsea have got their problems, David Luiz, Hazard, and all the while I was saying, again, we must not worry ourselves with the opposition. Let's try and think about the job in hand. Let's focus on what we need to do to get the job done. Let's not be distracted. And lo and behold, they didn't need to win the Europa League, but they did.
But they also wanted it. They also wanted
it
much more. They wanted it much more than what we did. They want European history, and they did. We obviously didn't want it enough.
Yeah. If anyone's watching Cannon 4 TV, this segment of the EASYTALK, hopefully a bite-sized version. I've got Richard from Master TV, and also I've got James Rowe, who is one of our... Well, he's part of the family now. James, you're part of the family. James, congratulations on reaching 4,300 followers on Twitter. Can you tell the viewers where they can find you?
Viewers can find me on @JamesRoweNL. You can also check out my regular interviews with professional players and managers. My latest interview with Derry City manager Declan Devine was published this evening, and there's much more to come in the coming weeks with the likes of Captain Luke Chambers, former Arsenal player Sanchez Watt, who's now at Wealdstone, and a fair few surprises too. So keep your eyes peeled.
There you go. And I've also got Richard, who is my co-host on Mondays, going through the fan comments. Richard, remind the viewers where they can find you, how they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on my Twitter, which is RichardAFC7, or I've got my other Twitter account, which is for my YouTube, where I post up, news for Arsenal as well. You can also find me on my YouTube channel, which is Arsenal TV. I'll put the link to my channel in the comments box after when we come off air, so you can head over there. So yeah, and I've also got my Instagram page as well.
And for those of you who are probably new to Cannon 4 TV, or you've seen us many, many times before, Richard is making his way to 1,000 subscribers. He's just a few away. So just make sure you go over there, make sure you subscribe, and also hit the notification bell, because he's got a surprise for us once he reaches 1,000 subscribers. Richard, what are you going to do when you reach 1,000 subscribers?
I'm actually going to dye the middle of my hair blonde.
Why not red and white?
I have been tempted to dye it red. So at the moment, I'm just juggling away of which one to go for.
There you go. So again, make sure you go over there. Make sure you subscribe to Richard's channel. He'll leave the link for his channel once we have done the live stream. Right. So the next point we actually wanted to talk about was a small story in regards to the North London derby, and yeah, James, North London derby.
Yeah.
I've never been to a North London derby. I've been to other matches at the Emirates and a few.
It's brilliant.
But I've never ever been to a North London derby.
I've been fortunate enough to have been to 3 of them. I went in 1993, 2002, and last December. And last December was, I think, the ever experienced at the Emirates. It was like everybody was alive. And even in the aftermath, people would speak about the atmosphere being 2-1 down and a raucous atmosphere and coming back in Unai Emery's first North London derby. But I think Sunday's game is going to be completely different. And we're going to have to fight hard. And we're the home team, so we've got to take the initiative. But you would like to think that we will win. Everybody inside the stadium knows what it means. You would like to think the players also know what it means, and we've got to get those 3 points going into the international break.
And before we came live, Richard was saying how he's buzzing for Sunday. Are you still buzzing, Richard?
I am. Do you know what? Even at this point before the weekend, even during the week, I always still now get the nerves and the butterflies leading up to North London derby, because for me, I know how much it means to us into going beating them lot every time. Now, as James said about the atmosphere at the Emirates, it's going to be roughly about the same as what it was when we last played them at home. The Emirates will be absolutely rocking. Let's put it that way. I think it will, because the fans will definitely be up for it. Because they know what the rivalry means, between the two clubs. And I think the other rivalry, I would say, is roughly about the same as will be us and Man United. I think us and Man United is another rivalry that is practically the same as a North London derby, but not as big as this. See, me, I've got Spurs fans in my family, and they're literally driving me nuts, saying, "Are you ready for it?" I'm like, "Yeah, come on, let's go. Let's just wait till that." Let's just wait until the kickoff. Then we'll see who's smiling at the end. So yeah, when this North London derby comes, we're literally enemies until that full-time whistle. So yeah. That's again, the most important thing is to make sure that Emery sets us up right, and to make sure that we come out with the 3 points, because I think that this is the best chance and the best game to come out from a defeat from Liverpool. This is a good game to come back to bounce back from. So. For me, this has got to be 3 points. A win is a must. And then after this, we've got an international break.
Yeah.
It's important to go in to the international break with a win, as Richard said, because if we come away from this game not getting the result we want, the international break can be quite long. And after that, we've got a difficult away game at Watford as well, which will not be easy. and then at home to Aston Villa. But you don't want to look too far ahead. But it's important going into the international break that we get the result we want, because as we know, the international break can drag in that respect.
Yeah. Quickly going to the chat. I've got Lumbercamp, and he says, "Hey guys, front three has to play." Which front three are you talking about? Is he talking about Lacazette, Aubameyang, and Pepe?
I could not agree more. I reckon that a front three is the best way forward. Play to your strengths. Play to your attack. If you know that the defense is going to fall apart, play to your strength. Go out full out attack. So yeah, front three. Yeah, completely.
Do you concur, James? Front three?
I do. We've got to take the initiative. You think of the outlay and the money we've spent. You know, we've got firepower to really hurt teams now, and we've got to, especially at home, go for the throat and go to try to get the win, and also play with a bit of panache and get the home crowd up, because we are very good at home, and it's about continuing to build a fortress, and let's hope we can do that.
Yeah. And I've got another comment here from Lumbercamp. By the way, fantastic name, Lumbercamp. And he says, "Hey Alex, Xhaka needs to be relegated to the Europa side, and Willock needs to be permanent. 60 reasons in our first 11." I couldn't agree more. I think Willock has been a real plus in the Arsenal team. He just needs to maybe push on and maybe score 1 or 2 goals. And we've also said as well that we cannot be so reliant on Lacazette and Aubameyang to score the goals. They're going to need a supporting cast around them to score goals. So, sorry, James.
Yeah, the point made by the viewer Lumbercamp as well. Xhaka, I saw him last Saturday get in the way of his fellow players, get in the way in terms of clumsiness, in terms of trying too hard. For me, Xhaka is trying too hard. That's the bottom line for me. And, we've often spoken about communication and lack of communication. And I completely agree with Willock. I think he's been a real plus point, and long may he continue to get his run. And I think it will be very dangerous to mix a match, a Europa League side, because we want to do well in Europe as well. It's not simply a case of picking 11 players and 3 subs to play 6 European matches and hope we get through and kick on in February. Put out a little bit of a statement that we are in this competition to win it, because it's about European glory as well. And that's why we're here. And you would like to think that this time it would be third time lucky.
Richard, I know you haven't been one of Xhaka's greatest fans, especially going into the match against Liverpool. Do you think Xhaka should feature more in the Europa League and less in the Premier League, or James says we should be mixing the match in?
In some sort of way, I kind of agree with James in not, mixing sort of matching between them. But really, I reckon that Xhaka should be in the Europa League side, because he does sometimes give that little bit more to what Willock does. Willock is still young, so he's still improving as a player. So, but for me, I think that Joe Willock has been the most impressive player even during pre-season, alongside Aubameyang, because those 2 players have looked really sharp. So I would actually give as much Premier League start to Willock as you can, because you don't know how long he's going to be here for, just in case if someone comes in and snatches him up. So I'd use him as much as you can, and maybe Xhaka could be crucial for the Europa League games. But if Emery has to change it and then play Willock in the Europa League, then by all means go for it.
Okay, and there's a point just regards to the Europa League. If we beat Frankfurt at home, we top the group. I don't think it's as simple as that, Lumbercamp. It's not as simple as that.
It's not. It's not. I mean, I respect the opinion of every gooner. On every platform, I will always respect the opinion of every gooner. But you've got to look at Standard. Standard Liège also have a tremendous manager in Michel Prudhomme. He was the goalkeeper of Belgium in Italia 90. And he managed FC Twente here for a short period, and they were playing some tremendous football. When he was manager of Twente here, when they played in the Champions League, they played some great stuff at times. And also Standard Liège at home it's a real raucous atmosphere to go to Liège and get a result. And also Victoria Guimarães, they're going to be ready for their European excursion. They're going to want to equip themselves well. So it's not simply a case of trying to run before we can walk. I know it sounds cliche. We've got to take one game at a time, but I'd love Unai Emery to throw down the gauntlet to them and say, right, your objective is to win every single group game. Just give them something to aspire to. So throw down that gauntlet to them and say, right, your objective is to win every single group game, home and away. And then you take it from there. As I said before, I can fully understand the clamour of fans, but European participation, it comes. Yes, it's lovely, but it's also we've got to really start thinking about the glory side of it now, because there's only a certain generation or certain generations of Arsenal fans that have actually seen it with their own eyes. And we've got to try to make sure that the next generation, as well as all Arsenal fans, can see that Arsenal can finally win in Europe again.
Yeah. I must herald Lumbercamp's positivity, but it's not as simple as that. Like you say, Standard Liège.
I fully agree. It's great to have fans that are really positive. Always welcome that. But Europe is you've got the best teams of their respective countries, and I mean Frankfurt knocked out a very good Strasbourg side, and Victoria Guimarães won through against Steaua Bucharest, who are arguably the biggest team in Romania. And I just tried to let fellow Gooners know is that, in terms of ignorance towards certain clubs and that kind of thing, it's a world game now. Players are playing all over the world where they're coached properly. Game management is very much improved. This hopefully will be our last season in the Europa League. So let's enjoy it from game one, and let's hope it finishes with a final European trophy in Gdansk.
Yeah. Got one here from Screenboy8, who's a regular on both Channel 4 TV and Arsenal TV. This is everybody still confident that we will make top 4?
Yeah, I am,
but it won't be easy.
No.
There are no easy games. Look at the last 5 games towards the end of the season where we just tripped up our own selves. But there are no easy games, and it's going to be difficult. But I do have some confidence that we will reach top 4. Once we're in Champions League, what we do there is a completely different story. But I think we'll reach top 4. Sorry, Richard, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. No, Al, I was going to say, you think that I reckon that the first and second place for the league title is pretty much certain. It's going to be between Liverpool and City. There's literally no doubt. And third and fourth will most likely be against, for us and Spurs. For fifth and sixth, I reckon probably Man United or Chelsea could end up sixth. I don't know which one exactly could, because they both haven't been that great, to be completely honest. But Wolves could sneak in. They possibly could sneak in, but because it's Wolves' first time in Europe, now they've got to try. The manager now has to try and juggle it between European football as well as the Premier to manage the team right. So they could struggle a little bit in terms of maybe getting into the top 6 or maybe top 4. But yeah, I reckon we've got every chance in getting top 4. If we can get a result at Wolves and then get a result at Watford, which I reckon we will, because Watford hasn't been that great. They've lost 3 within 3 weeks. So they're not really looking that great either. So we've got every chance to get top 4, and that's what I think Emery needs to do. He needs to focus on getting top 4, make sure that is secure first before throwing these eggs all into one basket. As James says, take game by game.
Yeah, and that was going to be my point. I can't think beyond the North London derby.
No,
for me, it has to be a game by game conclusion, because look what's happened. We won, the first 2 games. We've lost one, and there's some voices of doom already, here, actually talking. So for me, it has to be on a game by game basis. I can't think beyond the North London derby. But sorry, James, did you want to say something?
I am also confident we'll get top period is going to be absolutely key. You look at our games in and around Christmas and New Year against the likes of West Ham, Brighton, Manchester United, Chelsea. Our Christmas and New Year period is going to be vital in our quest to get top 4. Yes, it's important to have a good start, but it's like, for example, people say about, we lost top 4 from the last 5 games of last season. No, we didn't. We lost last season at Christmas time when we lost away to Southampton, drew away to Brighton, got absolutely smashed at Anfield, and lost away to West Ham. That is where we lost top 4, not the last 5 games of the season. And we've got to learn from our mistakes. And if we can do that, we'll give ourselves a great chance.
Yeah. A regular here, Gunnar Glenn, who's been so kind over the last month or so, promoting the stuff that we do on Cannon Boy TV. And I did see that he's quite poorly. He says hello from my hospital bed. So Gunnar Glenn, from everyone on Cannon Boy TV, and I'm sure from the panel, I hope you get better very, very soon.
Yeah, get well soon.
Yeah, best wishes, Ben. Best wishes, get well soon.
Here, I think I recognise this person, Ralph Lee. I think it's my brother. The high panel, we have to show our strength from the first minute.
Yeah.
I think, whatever game, whether it's in the Europa League or in the Premier League.
Yeah, and also remember to enjoy it as well.
Exactly.
We all know how long a football season is. It's very, very long. And I think, especially on social media, I think people forget how long it is. They really do. If you're coming out with doom and gloom after only 3 matches, you'd like to finish the season now, would you? We're going to be fighting. We've got the League Cup coming up against a tremendous football club in Nottingham Forest who have such a rich history. We've got Europa League against Frankfurt and Standard Liège coming up. We've got a lot to look forward to. But let's just take it game by game, and I think we'll surprise a fair few people.
Yeah. But just remember, even against the Nottingham Forest in the Carabao Cup, don't forget they already have the upper hand on us already because they beat us in the FA Cup 4-2. So they've already got the upper hand on us already. So what we need to do is not take games for granted because every 3 points could push us towards top 4 either way. As James said, I even think that even the Crystal Palace game was a match turning point in terms of us getting top 4 as well, and also losing to Everton. So those 2 games for me were very crucial for us in getting top 4, because if we got top 4 even then I think we would have been pushing on for 3rd spot. Even playing against them lot last season, where obviously Aubameyang missed a penalty, but it happens. Even there we could have been 3rd. So it's good that Emery is maybe thinking ahead a little bit, but what he needs to do is to focus at one game at a time, and then if the injuries come up, rotate it a little bit if you have to, but try and keep it simple. We don't have to play fancy football every game. We don't have to. As long as we can keep it simple and basic, then we will still easily get the job done on certain games. Even if we have to grind out 1-0s, even if we're not playing that great, it's still 3 points in the bag.
Again, like I said, for me, it has to be on a game-by-game basis. Again, we can't get too ahead of ourselves because, again, we won our first 2 opening games for the first time in a long time, and then we lost the 3rd game, and again, the voices of doom appear to be surfacing. James, I just want to quickly ask you about there were some grumblings about the way that Unai Emery not only set up the formation, but the way we were playing out constantly from the back. What's your thoughts about Arsenal playing out from the back constantly?
I think it sometimes can be a little bit overdone. I think there's certain players that are not used to playing out from the back, and we've got to try to adjust our tactics and try to take each opponent on its own merit and adjust accordingly.
Richard, I know you're not a great fan of us playing out from the back so constantly, are you?
No, I'm not, because I think one of these days playing out from the back we're gonna get caught out, and I reckon that what we need to do in certain games, especially with the teams that are pressing up higher than normal. What we need to do is play balls over the top.
You mean mix it up a little bit, rather?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
because because if you think about with these teams, like when we play against them and we keep playing that from the back, they're going to get used to it. They're going to know our every move. So it's not. They're like, yeah, okay, we know what they're going to do. Let's just press them. We know what direction they're going to pass the ball. But if we played one of them teams one day, and the next thing you know, we've played a long ball, they're going to feel confused. They're going to say, "What the hell's going on? We wasn't expecting that." You know. So this is what Emery needs to do. He needs to switch it up because I just don't like playing that from the back. I just sometimes don't like it. Not constantly, anyway. And then going to the Liverpool game, in some sort of way, I don't think that we played badly. I just think that Lacazette should have started, and so should have Torreira. And I think you look how we was playing with the front three, with Abba, Laka, and Pep. Look how we was playing then. And I think the other missing piece that should have been sorted was moving Ceballos in the middle for the number 10. Play him more centrally, because if you play him more centrally, he can release Pep. He can release Pepper. He can release Pep, and then you've got Lacazette that can do the hold up play, and then Bamian can do whatever he does. You know, so this is how we need to be set up, because I reckon Ceballos will be Mesut Ozil's replacement. That's what I think. And I don't get why some of the fans were ranting about the Liverpool defeat. It's only the third game in, but yet you're still ranting about a 3-1 defeat to Liverpool. We all knew that deep down, we wasn't going to come away with a win against Liverpool at Anfield. We knew it deep down. Because if you think about it, we've got a complete different objective to what Liverpool has. We're trying to get into top 4. Well, as Liverpool, I've got to defend for the Champions League, and plus they've got they're also fighting for the Premier League title. So we've got two different objectives as a team. And then I saw the way that Nicolas Pepe was playing. Now, I think that Robertson is probably one of the best left backs in the league, but he got spun left, right, and centre by Pepe. But I just felt sometimes that Nicolas Pepe was a little bit too soft. You know, he didn't fully commit as he does when he was playing in the French league. You know, what he should do, I want him to go full throttle. So if he's once he receives that ball, I want him to turn around and say, right, every time I get the ball, I'm going to beat you every time. That's how I want him to be. And I think if he has that mentality that he will beat a defender every time, then boy, we've got some serious player on our hands.
James, I never got what was your prediction for the Liverpool game?
My prediction was 2-2.
Oh, so was mine.
That was my prediction.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get away with 1 point.
You know, maybe I let my heart rule my head a little bit. But again,
with
the criticism afterwards, as Richard said, it's just a third game. It's not, you know, years ago when we didn't win trophies for years on end, what would have people done then? You know, we've also got to learn to enjoy the ride. You know, enjoy the season, because when it's pre-season and when the season's finished, some people can be at a loose end and get a bit restless. You know, it's a long old season, as we know only too well, and we've got to try to enjoy it as well. Yeah.
Okay, let me just quickly rack through these comments in the chat before we wrap up this segment of the Easy Talk. We've got a newbie here, Ryan Bassett, who says, if we continue playing Xhaka, who should he be paired with in midfield?
I would pair him with Torreira.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Yeah, because that way he'll be able to keep at least a little bit of discipline and at least a little bit of shape. I mean, at Anfield, he was getting in the way of his own players. I think he's trying too hard, and that's not helping. That's not helping with the criticism he's receiving, which is a little bit too much, if you ask me. But, trying too hard, I think that's one of the reasons. But I think Torreira has got to play more often, because he gives us a bit more bite and a bit more steel. And we need that at times. We needed that from minute 1 at Anfield, just to take the sting out of it and also, put your foot in at times and break the game up. And you just hope that Emery learns that as the season goes on, because Rich has made a great point about playing Nottingham Forest in the League Cup. That they dispatched of Derby quite easily, and they're going to be ready for it. And we haven't won the League Cup since 1993, and people pass it off as a Tin Pot Cup that nobody wants to win. But yet we haven't won it for 20 what will be 27 years by the time the final comes round. So the games are going to come thick and fast. And if you remember how disappointing it was to get knocked out by Tottenham in the League Cup last November, we mustn't let anything curtail the season, and just fight on all different fronts and take it game by game.
Unai Emery is known for being very meticulous, with his planning. And in relation to the Xhaka situation, because like you, James, I did get the impression that he was trying too hard, very, very too hard. So wouldn't have Emery noticed that? I know he's one of our 5 captains, so it's more likely that you'll see him play more than not. But if you've got a player who's trying too hard and is getting in the way of the other players, surely Emery should speak to him, or maybe not play him. Because I think for me, there's a case that Xhaka is now a squad player. He can't be guaranteed to be in the first 11. We've got a bigger group now of midfield players who can probably, if not match him, but play better than Xhaka. But shouldn't Emery be able to notice these things, or his coaching staff can notice these things about Xhaka, and just say, you know what, we'll pull out Xhaka for maybe 2 games and see how they're set up with maybe Ceballos, Torreira, and Willock goes for maybe 2 games. But don't you think Unai Emery should notice those things about Xhaka?
Yeah, yes, but also you mentioned about the 5 captains. Normally, the captain would approach Xhaka and help him to sort it out. But if he himself is one of the 5 captains, it doesn't necessarily bode well. I wonder if the 5 captain thing is more of a rhetorical question, to be honest, of Unai Emery wanting more captains. But that comes down to characters. That comes down to real characters as to how much you're prepared to win. I mean, I remember seeing Xhaka in the changing room when we played Leicester away at the end of last season, and he looked apprehensive. We hadn't even stepped foot on the pitch yet, and he looked as if he was a little bit apprehensive. And I can understand Unai Emery's, wanting to judge things, but as far as I'm aware, Unai Emery's only signed a 2-year deal. And I do not advocate Arsenal looking for a new manager after this season's end. I think one of the first podcasts we did with Richard, I remember one of the things Richard said even back then, when he was saying about breaking open Unai Emery's deal and extending it in terms of the greater good. And, I just think if targets are not met in inverted commas this season, he could come under immense pressure. But as someone who interviews managers on a regular basis, fans that call for the manager's head, they have to realise that when you make such a decision, it has connotations for almost everybody in the club, and also players that maybe become marginalised, youth players that were knocking on the door. Maybe a new manager comes in and doesn't fancy that youth player, so he leaves the club and goes elsewhere. So it's a very, very sensitive subject, and we've got to handle it well. But let's just concentrate on the season ahead, look forward to it, and also enjoy it.
Yeah. All right. So let me just quickly wrap through all these chats, and then we'll definitely be ending this segment of the Easy Talk. I've got Screenboy 8. I'd like to see Willock play against Spurs, even as a second half sub. Screenboy 8 again. Yep, Glenn, 3rd or 4th. What else we've got here? How can I come into the chat? Well, if you don't know now, then we can't help you. Sorry, Luca. Ceballos ain't staying here past the end of the season.
You never know.
We never know. We never know.
You never know. You're talking about the biggest club in the world, and the biggest club in the world primarily will do what they want to do. And you can understand Ceballos wanting to stay there and prove his worth, especially being Spanish. But a lot can happen between now and the end of the season. Let's enjoy the fact that we've got him, Let's enjoy the fact that he's going to play a lot better than what he has done, and we're going to see some great things from him. I'm certain sooner rather than later he's going to score from a direct free kick. I'm absolutely certain of that.
Yeah.
And he'll be more of a threat from corners. So let's just enjoy the fact that we've got him, and we can enjoy him for at least a season.
Al, going back to what James said about Unai Emery. Now, I think Unai Emery is into his last year at the moment, and I think he has got an option to extend it for another year. I think I'm not 100% certain, but what I think for Unai, if you think about it, if you look at the way Liverpool are, it took Jurgen Klopp 3 years to get his team clicking. So if you think about it, we're in the same sort of boat as Liverpool, but they've got better players to us. There's no doubt about that. So it will take time. Now, I honestly do think that the Upper Makana deal is actually already done and dusted, just waiting for January to open. That's what I think anyway. I'm not 100% certain if it is, but that's what I think anyway. Because I know that we still kept going in for Upper Makana to try and get him. So that's going to help our defence. Now, I don't think that David Luiz was our main answer in terms of our centre-backing issues. I think that David Luiz was a panic because we only just lost Lauren Koscielny.
Yeah.
So we had to bring in someone quite quickly. And for Chelsea to sell him as cheap as they did, I think they're going to regret that. I think they will regret that in terms of the way Chelsea are now. But what Unai Emery needs to do, this season has to be one of the ones where he has to achieve his objectives, meaning getting top four, getting us back into Champions League, and hopefully get us to another final of the Europa League as well. But I do think that Arsenal are changing as a club. I don't think they're going to hang on to managers for so long. If they feel that manager is not achieving his goals, then I reckon they could end up going to get another manager, which I don't want that. But if it has to come to it, then by all means, I reckon we could get another manager that will take us further than what Unai Emery has done so far.
Yeah.
But
James, you know that saying that Elvis has left the building? Well, Terry has just entered the building.
Hey.
Talk about time. Hey, Terry, you all right?
All right, boys. Big shout out to all the Arsenal fans all over the world. I've just come back from the south of Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, and a few of my friends watch this on a regular basis. So a big shout out to Tim Hogan over there in Clare. He watches this a lot, and a guy that runs a shop right on the west coast of County Clare. He runs a cafe and ice cream place, and he's coming to the match on Sunday. So I'll probably meet him in the 12 pins for a drink. His name is Joe Beakey, and he's got a season ticket at Arsenal, and he's a massive Arsenal fan. So he travels a fair old distance. I know people travel further, but that's a good distance to be travelling. He would obviously go from Shannon Airport into, it would probably be Stansted, you know. So, Joe, I'll see you on Sunday. You've probably noticed, boys, I'm wearing a slightly different top. It's actually... I've worn this to a few games, especially when we had the, if you might remember, the away kit with it was a yellow and it had a blue band across the chest. I'll just show it to you there. Yeah. Can you see it?
Yeah, the 98 one.
Yeah, and so the back of it is plain. So it's great fun because my second team obviously is Clare that play this game called hurling, which is the most vicious game that they legally allow on a pitch. It's a cross between rugby, hockey, and mixed martial arts. And the guys who do it are incredibly brave, incredibly skillful, and it's the world's fastest ball field sport. So the ball travels at some massive speed, 120 mile an hour or something. And there's constant scores, which is why the Americans like it, I guess. Constant scoring. If you get it over, the goal looks like an ordinary goal, but it's got 2 rugby posts with it. And if you get a ball over the bar, it's a point. And if you score a goal, it's 3 points. So you could be losing, and right at the end of a game, and if you score 2 goals, the whole match turns around. So it's really exciting game. Yeah, and it's played on the biggest pitch as well. It's played on a massive pitch. But they have plenty of green grass in Ireland, so there ain't no shortage of that.
Eltel, we've missed you, mate. We've missed you. Welcome back.
Oh man, I've missed it. I've missed it. I've been following all you guys on Twitter and various things, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it's lovely in the west of Ireland to meet so many Arsenal fans. You know, they're big time Arsenal fans. And this guy came over with his son at Christmas, and I showed him all around Islington. And his dad used to drive a bus out of Holloway Garage. And so I showed him all the places like where Pat Rice's parents had a greengrocers, and he was fascinated in the Irish links, because there was a time when we had a lot of Irish players playing for us, you know. So he's going to come over again during the year. But as I say, this other guy, Joe, he goes to every home match. So, wow. Yeah. I'm sorry I was late, guys. The daughter wanted to go to a party, so I forgot all about it. And just had to race around there. But anyway, it's good to see you all. You're all looking well. And I believe some of you are going to be going to a match in a week or two. James, are you coming on Sunday?
No. I don't know when my first game of the season is, Terry. In terms of away matches away at Norwich and Sheffield United, I have them booked. But in terms of Europa League, I've got my eye on Frankfurt and Standard Liège, but I've just got to wait a little bit longer to see if it's all feasible.
Well, I was thinking about you today when we pulled Frankfurt out of the hat, and I remember you telling us that Frankfurt have more than a half-decent team there.
Yeah, they do. They have some very good players. Rebic of Croatia, who had a great World Cup, and De Guzman, who's really experienced with the likes of Feyenoord and Villarreal. They've recently signed the Dutch striker Bas Dost, who scored many goals for Sporting Lisbon. Yeah. And it's a lot tougher group than what people think it actually is.
Yes.
And I said earlier on this pod, you know, this is our third crack of the whip in the Europa League, if you like, and this is the toughest group we find ourselves in. And
yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
They're going to have to take it seriously from the very first game.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, in a way, the first game is away, isn't it, to Eintracht Frankfurt?
Yeah.
So there's no harm in that, because that's probably our toughest game. And if we manage to pull a draw out of that, I would regard that as a big result, you know. And then we got 2 home games after that. Yeah.
But how do you think we'll fare against Standard Liège? Do you think we can?
Well, because he's going to blood a lot of the young players, isn't he? That's his plan, I guess, along with the Carabao Cup. I think we're doing great. I think some of the best Arsenal teams I've seen have had young players right to the fore, you know. Going back to the 71 double team, you had Ray Kennedy in his first season, early doors for people like Peter Storey. But we always had a very solid centre backs right the way through all the times when Arsenal have done well. You know, back in the days of, say, Tony Adams and Steve Bold or Keown. And then later on, we had Toure and the guy from Tottenham, what's his name?
Campbell.
Name that dare not speak. But yeah, so I'm a little bit worried. But I think obviously our forward line sounds fantastic and they look fantastic. But I think they'll go in again in the January transfer window and try and get a big guy there. Because that match against Liverpool, I was looking up the respective heights of Joel Matip and Van Dijk. Van Dijk is 6'4". Okay, so we're buying this guy that's 6'4". But Matip surprised me. He's 6'5". He's a big unit. And if I was watching the semi-final against Tottenham back in, was it back the 80s when we'd lost the year before, and then we went back and played them and beat them with a Tony Adams header with 83 minutes gone. But he stole in at the far post, and he was the biggest guy on the pitch. So I'm one of those guys. I like big centre backs. Yes, they have to be skillful, and yes, they've got to move faster over the ground now. But you know, when I analysed that goal, they all said we watched Van Dijk too much. But you know what? They're both big guys, and our biggest guy is David Luiz at 6'2". You know, so I know it's nice. It's about the spring as well. It's not just about but you know, thinking back to all the big days, you know, and Steve Bold 6'4", Adam 6'3". We always had big guys there, and if you don't do
Colin
that,
Pates was also quite big as well. When he tell
who?
Colin Pates was also
Colin
quite tall as
Pates,
well, wasn't he?
yeah. I mean, to be honest, the only way you're going to do it if you've got slightly smaller centre backs is you've got to get a goalie who comes for crosses. Yeah. And the 71 team, they were small. You had Frank McClintock 5'9.5", Peter Simpson 5'11", but Bob Wilson came for any cross into the box. And that goal against Liverpool, I don't know if you've mentioned it, but the first one, nobody's mentioned it yet. Had the goalie come for that, he'd have pinched it off Van Dijk's, not Van Dijk's, he'd have Matip's head.
Matip.
You know, and a lot of goalies like to stay on their line nowadays. They're frightened of getting blocked, I suppose. But Wilson did that. If you've got two big centre backs and you're frightened that they're going to outleap your centre backs, then you've got to ask the goalie to be brave. Yeah. You could always put a couple of guys on the line as well. You know.
Yeah, but I think Leno, I think probably that's one of his weakest spot, isn't it? Actually coming out and trying to claim ball. Yeah, and that's his Achilles heel, isn't it?
Well, a lot of continental goalkeepers, as you know, punch the ball, but he doesn't even do that, does he? Yeah. He tends to stay on his line and expect to then react to either the first header or the second ball. Yeah. But I'm still worried that we really haven't quite got the centre back thing nailed yet. You know,
guys,
this is where I mentioned
my brother.
This is where I mentioned about Upper Makana.
Unai Emery is trying too hard in playing from the back tactics. Surely he has other tactics to rely on.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, against Liverpool, he got caught out a few times. And I think at one point, Leno did kick it long. So I think they should vary it because teams have tumbled us now. They've all worked out exactly what we're doing. So I would definitely vary it, you know, especially as he was relying on a long ball over the top for the two forwards to sort of run onto. I think he could vary it, or maybe Leno could play the ball to a fullback, but the fullback on our fullback on the halfway line or something. But there's constant rolling it out, and Liverpool are past masters at pinning you back, you know, and pressing you. Yeah.
There's one here for Richard from Ralph again. Do you think that Pepe needs time to establish himself in the Premiership?
To be quite honest, I would say yes, he does still need a little bit of time. But I can see that he will establish to the Premier League quite quickly, soon rather than you think. But as I said, even against Liverpool, what I think that Pep should have done, he should be more committed, you know, and not being too easy. That's how I saw it. I saw it as if he was being a little bit too easy. So this is why I think that what he needs to do in every game is that he needs to put in his mind that as soon as he retrieves that ball, he needs to put in his mind, every time I get that ball, I'm going to beat you every time. Because you saw the way he was playing against Liverpool. Now, as I said earlier, Al, I said that I think that Robertson is probably one of the best left backs in the Premier League, but he got spun over left, right, and centre by Pepe. So I don't think it'll be that long until that he will find himself, and finally he will know what the Premier League is like. As long as he keeps his fitness up and everything else, I think he'll establish to the Premier League sooner than you think.
Yeah. There's something here for James. Great mention, James. Very wise words. Most importantly for Arsenal fans, enjoy it. Enjoy it. Yeah.
And just to say, it's a long old season, as we know only too well. And the question about Pepe, he does need time. Players adapt quicker than others, but we've spent a lot of money on him. You know, don't write him off too quick. I mean, Bellingham didn't score for how many games?
Yeah. Good point.
Score for 3 months, and you know, some people can have short memories, and we're going to be fighting in different cups as the season goes on. I think we're going to surprise a lot of people. I mean, I can understand the clamour for top four, but I really want us to win a trophy this year. Because if we don't win a trophy this year, it's 3 years without a trophy. And yes, we have had periods of 18 years and 17 years since we last won trophies, but it'd be nice to put that to bed and win a trophy this season. Guys, as you know, I'm an hour ahead. It's been short and sweet.
Okay,
And
mate.
I look forward to speaking to you all again soon.
James, thank you for
Cool,
coming on
take care,
Channel 4
James.
TV.
See you, James.
Have a good evening, James. Take care.
Yeah. Enjoy the North London derby, everybody, and let's hope for an Arsenal win.
Up the Gunners.
Okay, mate.
Take it easy up the Arsenal. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Elto, here's one here from Gooner Glenn. And he says, lots of Irish Gooners go back to the days of Brady, Stapleton, O'Leary, and Quinn. Yeah? Noel Quinn?
Yep.
Oh, completely forgot about him.
Yeah. It was nice to bring my mate round a few of the places, and I will bring him again. He'll come over before Christmas, because a lot of people forget you had David O'Leary, who was born in Stoke Newington.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had a bloke, and goes back into the day. We had a bloke called John Devine, who played right back for us. He only ever ran in straight lines. He had a strange style of playing, but he married Miss Ireland. He married what technically was a really beautiful lady and became more famous for who he sort of married than his Arsenal career. And then he used to gig around London playing guitar and singing. So all these are little stories that if you're Irish, and I've obviously looked at it very carefully. In fact, my brother-in-law, who lives in Dublin, his next door neighbour is a guy called Flanagan, and I was chatting to him, and he said, I have a big link with Arsenal. And I said, what's that? He said, have you ever... I said, what's your surname? He said, Flanagan. I said, you're nothing to do with Dr. Flanagan, are you? He said, that was my great uncle, and he played for Arsenal back in the 50s.
Oh, bloody hell.
So that's only through me reading books. I don't go back that far. I read it in the book somewhere.
I've got one here from Arsenal Vlogs. What I want to see is Arsenal start from scratch against Tottenham and bully them in the midfield. I heard Belly is out if Spurs play Christian and Vertonghen. I think this game will be a draw.
No, I don't think it'll be a draw. I really don't. I reckon that we are going to smash Spurs 4-1. That's my prediction. I'm giving it early. But yeah, that would definitely be my prediction, because in the previous meetings that we've had against them lot, we've scored 3 or plus goals. We haven't had that many draws, but it's mainly been us that's been getting the 3 points against them. I know that Spurs have only beat us once in the league at the Emirates. So we've got a much better side. But we just, like as you said earlier, Al, we need to focus on ourselves and not worry about them, because at the end of the day, it's about us. We all know that with Arsenal and Spurs, it's going to be us two that's going to be fighting for that third and fourth spot. But I reckon we could have the upper hand. I do reckon we will, because they've got their Champions League games as well. So obviously we've got our Europa League games, but we've got the upper hand because we've got a better record than they have against us in the Premier League. So don't take this game for granted. But if Emery sets us up right and to go full out attack, then we're going to get the job done. But we need to come out with the players need to have the same mentality as the fans. Whatever happens, it has to be a win. Yeah. No loss, no draw. It has to be a win, because and then once they hear us getting like behind them, then they will start to feel how much we want this game.
I just put back into the chat again. London Old School, I agree with that. We need to invest big money in a world-class centre-back. Someone's told me that it's possibility that Arouse, Zeleny and Vinay, they've probably already wrapped up the Upamecano deal already. It's just that we have to wait until maybe January for the next transfer window for it to be rolled out. But I think you're right. Historically, we haven't really had always big centre backs, but I think that's what we're lacking. We need a big dominating centre back, or the goalkeeper has to be more dominant in his era. And Leno, for me, is quite suspect when he's coming out to claim the ball or come to clear the ball. He's very suspect. And that's why I think Burnley were always playing the ball long into the era, because that was his Achilles heel.
I think I've read Emery's biography, which is not a well-written book, but so don't waste money on it. But I got it as a Christmas present, and I read it, but it's very disjointed. But the thing that comes through it all the time is that he would rather win 5-4 than 1-0, Emery. Yeah. So he's a very committed attacking football guy. And I know a lot of people have criticised him, I think unfairly, about the fact that he keeps changing tactics. But I've got a friend over the road from me here who's been watching Arsenal since about 1950 something, you know. And he said to me a good while ago when Wenger was in charge, every match you go to with Wenger in charge is the same match. The team never change. And the beauty of watching Emery's teams is you go to the game thinking, what's he going to play now? And if he's making us guess, he's making the opposition guess. And it makes it worth going to see, just to, if you're into tactics, which I love, and I love to see the way they set up, which you don't always get on telly, but if you go and see it live, you can see where people are moving off the ball and so on. So I like Emery's style. And people say, what is his style? Well, his style is to change, and his style is to look at the opposition's weakness, you know, which boxers do. You know, if you look at the days of Muhammad Ali, if he came up against a big puncher, what was the famous one? Rope-a-dope and those guys, he'd let them punch themselves out. You know, so he thought about who he's playing against. And I think Emery's good like that. He tries to look at how the other team are likely to set up, and he's good at in-game changes. If it's not working, he'll do it in game. He won't even wait for half time. And I think that makes it exciting to sort of watch. I really think we're going to have a season where we have a lot of goals. And I think all forwards, you were saying earlier, Henry didn't start scoring for a while. Bergkamp didn't start scoring for a while. Henry. So if our forwards start scoring, and if Pepe starts scoring at the weekend, then it's going to steamroll the teams, because once he's going to feel a bit guilty after missing that 1-on-1. And he needs to get 1 or 2 goals under his belt. And then, because he's still young, what is he, 21? So they're still young, these guys, you know, and they will rely a lot on, you know, feeling good about themselves and so on, you know. And so I want to keep praising them and keep cheering them. And if they manage to start scoring on Sunday, I can see us having a cracking season.
Yeah. Okay, just a couple more chats before I wrap up this live show. Hey, Eltel, the original Godfather.
Hey.
For my brother. And the last one is, he says, I believe the North London Derby is the most contested fixture in the Premier League. He might be right. Is he right? I'm not sure.
Do you know what? I think that the North London Derby is probably one of the best rivalries in Premier League history. Because they know, you know, everyone knows that Tottenham hates us and we hate them. But if you think about it, Tottenham are actually a Middlesex team. They're not actually a North London side. They was originally from Middlesex. And obviously they didn't like it because we came from south of the river. So if you look at it, that's the reason why they hate us. But do you know what? Over the last few years, the past 3 years, Tottenham have been better than us. There's no doubt about it. But they'll never be a bigger team than us. You know? But for me, the North London Derby is a game that I always look forward to every season. As soon as the fixtures come out, I always want to know whether we play them. That's definitely for certain. As I said earlier, Al, I think the rivalry, I would say, is probably about the same as us and Tottenham, is us and Man United, because of the rivalry that we've had between Man United over the years with Ferguson and whatnot. So this has got to be one of the most ones.
So did you go? You went to the last game, the North London Derby, when we beat them 4-2, didn't you? Yeah. What was the atmosphere like?
Oh, well, funny enough, Torreira was asked about the atmosphere, and he said, I don't know if you've seen him quoted in the press, he said he'd been told by the players this is something else, and he said, I never realised what they meant until I was on the pitch. The crowd were roaring and you could feel the vibe. And he said, then I understood. So, and having known one or two players in the past, they do tell me the crowd do have a big, big effect on you. They can't, when they come to take throw-ons, they can hear people shouting at them, whether it's abuse or encouragement. And he said, yeah, the atmosphere makes you play better. So, yeah, I mean, all I'd just say to any Arsenal fans watching, if you manage to sort of get a ticket in for the game, just start shouting and keep shouting for Arsenal, and it will make a massive difference.
Yeah. So there you've heard it from the original Godfather himself. Make sure you go to a North London derby if you get the opportunity. I'm going to wrap up this segment of the Easy Talk, which was supposed to be a bite size, but as these things happen, it got a little bit extended and the conversation got very, very interesting, a little bit heated in the middle, but that's just the way things go when you're doing live streams. But before I wrap up, Richard, I want to say a big thank you to you to coming on again last minute.
Nice one, Richard.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure, guys. Always a pleasure.
At a later stage, that Richard is going to be joining me every Monday, going through the fan comments at 5 p.m. Going through all your comments that you guys put on Cannon Forward TV religiously. So we thank you so much. Al,
can I just put a shout out to I heard the news which was last night about Lucas Enrique's daughter that sadly passed away at the age of 9 years old. You know, as a father myself, you know, I really can't imagine the pain and the terror that he's feeling right now. And you know what, my thoughts and my prayers are with him and his family at this sad time.
Yeah. Good shout. Good shout.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's all football aside.
Yeah. And also as well, Andrew, who's from Dial Square to Ware. I know he wasn't hospitalized. Well, he was, but he's now home convalescing. Again, he's one of us. You know, he's one of the Cannon Forward TV family. But you know, I wish you so well, Andrew, if you're watching, or maybe at a later stage. But Eltel, welcome back. Welcome back.
Lovely.
Welcome back.
I'm raring for it on Sunday, man. I'm really looking forward to it.
Did you get my ticket?
Yeah, man, me too.
No, I'm only joking.
Can't wait.
I can't wait. No, it's lovely to realise when you go to different countries and you start saying I'm a Gooner, suddenly people come out and go, so am I, and you know, it's as you say, it's your channels for Arsenal fans all over the world.
Yeah, and there you go. There you go. So that was the outro done by Eltel, the original Godfather. So if you've been wondering who or what you've been watching, you have been watching Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over the world. And North London derby triumph.
Can I just do one more? Just thought this guy Tim